What would you do if in the same week the universe hands you the biggest confirmation ever that you are on the right path, and at the same time also land the biggest financial gut punch of your entire life? This week I got both. A potential client reached out to me because of a 30-minute conversation where I was completely myself. Within 24 hours of that amazing conversation, I received an IRS tax audit bill of $255,000 that brought my net worth to zero. Many of us would spiral. In fact, almost all of us would lower our prices and get the next person that is reaching out to be your client in order to get money through the door. I did the exact opposite. In this episode, I'm going to share with you what exactly shifted emotionally, physically, intellectually, and at the identity level, where I turned this $300,000 debt into the fuel for my biggest quantum leap yet. If you are in the season right now where you feel like life is testing you really hard and you're wondering whether to keep going or to fold, this episode is for you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel. Hi, my name is Ajitha and welcome to my YouTube channel. With over 20 years of corporate executive experience, I am now the strategic advisor to executives and executive leadership teams and founders, upgrading their internal operating system to lead at visionary scale. What I share with you in this video is my live business building experience. I am not building this business from hustle. Instead, I'm using 4 principles, what I call the 4 I's: infinite intelligence, identity, intuition, and inspired action. This is my live case study of going from $0 to $4.4 million in 12 months or less. Using the Epic Leadership Operating System framework, which is my proprietary framework that I use with my clients, I am now applying it to my own business live and sharing the journey with you all week by week. We are now on week 5 and let's see what has shifted. So let's start with the inner shifts. Emotional operating system. What were the shifts this week? Well, I did process a bit of grief. I wouldn't say a bit, quite a bit of grief. And what came through that process and the grief that I was processing was really about the loss of a long-term relationship that I had concluded earlier in February. If you go back to my other videos, you can see. It wasn't so much about the relationship itself, but it was about dismantling the pattern in which I was, because I was depending on somebody outside of me to be the source of motivation, to be the source of my emotions that either drove me or made me feel in any particular way. The biggest realization of processing this grief and going deeper into understanding myself was that I have anchored my joy or my motivation, my inspiration as to be driven by a source outside of me. And that was a huge awareness shift and a revelation for me. The realization or the revelation was that there was, for the first time in my life, there was really nothing outside of me that was fueling me. And I had to find a source from within me that would be the source of motivation for me to keep going forward. And this grief was actually amplified in some ways with the IRS bill that I talked about in my intro. And what actually hit me the most when I got that bill was not the fact that it was a huge amount. It was the fact that I didn't have anybody in my personal life, what I would call a partner, that I could actually lean my head on and express my feelings. You know, I mean, I'm someone who instantly finds what's the good thing about that. The fact that I honed in on the absence of a partner made me realize that there is a partner right now. And, you know, I talked about the 4 I principles that I'm using to build this business. It's true for my life as well. So I said, what is it that I have access to that can be my best partner, that is not outside of me, but so within me, that I have full access to at all times? And of course, it was the infinite intelligence, what people call God, universe, source, creator, so many different names. I'm simply referencing this as the field of intelligence that knows everything, and is all that is. So I said, yeah, I may not have a partner externally to express my emotions at the moment on what I'm going through. That doesn't stop me from expressing how I feel to infinite intelligence. So that actually shifted my perspective. This is very, very important for any of you that are going through a very difficult time in your life, is the more your mind or your ego self will want to identify with the misery, with the pain, because we are programmed for that. And the sooner we stop looking at what's not there and stop wallowing and dwelling on it and shifting to what is there, the faster the recovery and the bounce back is. Infinite intelligence, and that is always present within me, and that's who I am going to convey and communicate. And I wasn't surprised the minute I connected with this infinite intelligence, and I said, this is just too much. I just can't take this. And that's when the message came, yes, this is an opportunity to surrender. You obviously cannot handle this on a human level, just with your intellect or your logic or your analysis, because a lot of things don't make sense in life when they happen. To say the least, I can't make logical sense of anything that has happened in the last 10 years of my life, the series of losses. And when I talked about not having a partner to share this experience, it was not just about a partner, not having even parents, any of those relationships that bolster you and support you through difficult times. And so that's when the awareness was, okay, I may not have all of that externally. I do have infinite intelligence within me, access, and so I'm going to talk and see what I'm receiving. And the answer is to surrender. I cannot solve this problem on a logical level. It requires for me to become the version that is unperturbed by what is happening in my external reality. When I say surrender, it means that if the source that has created everything in this universe, which is all that is, then unless I make this particular situation to be a doomsday situation, it is not. So here is the beautiful awareness that came through. Almost every person that has gone through any type of bringing something into reality, like people call it manifestation, right? I'm on the journey of manifesting my $4.4 million business revenue. When you made a decision, anytime you make a decision and you're marching towards a particular direction, there is a universal law of opposites that's at play. What is the universal law of opposites about? That when we are desiring something or have made a decision to attract something into our life, the thing that we are attracting requires a context of opposite to experience that which we are looking to bring into our life. So in my case, I said I'm going to bring $4.4 million in business revenue this year. That's the journey I'm on. The minute I made the decision, I get this big bill that I've never gotten in my entire life. I've never been in so much debt in my entire life. That has brought my whole net worth to zero. And my awareness, this part of the awareness just blew my mind. And the awareness was, I said I'm going from 0 to 4.4 million. And here I am at 0 right now, 5 weeks into the declaration of the decision. And I said, wow, I'm such a powerful manifester that within 4 weeks of declaring my journey of going to 4.4 million from 0, I actually brought myself to 0. You can't make this stuff up, right? So I'm like, wow. So I have shown how powerful a manifester I am by making myself go to 0, which essentially means that the 4.4 million is inevitable. That's how powerful I am. And that was a big shift in my awareness, a big breakthrough, because I had two options. And you may be at a place in your life too where you're with two options, which is when you're faced with a challenge, you're going to either look at it as the worst thing and get into a downward spiral, or you have the choice, very important word, you have the choice to look at it as the exact thing that's needed to uplift you to where you want to go. That choice is only in your own operating system. It is you who decides that. Here I am talking about this today live as it has unfolded less than 3 days, 4 days ago in my life. You know how long it took for me to bounce off of that message and the feelings that I was processing? Of course I cried. So I got this packet on Thursday evening. I processed the shock, the grief, everything overnight. By Friday morning, I decided I did not come this far for this. I did not come this far for this. I came here for something larger and bigger. It was such clarity that I had as a result of that emotional processing of the shock and the surrendering process that I went through, that I said, this is clearly a call from infinite intelligence for me to step into the identity that is truly embodying the vibrational frequency of the $4.4 million that I've declared to bring into my life, into this reality. It's a clear call to rise. Anytime you feel you're ready to quit, and I'm talking about really quitting this earth, that moment is essentially a call for you to rise to the next level of version of you. Please remember that. That's exactly what I went through 3 days ago. By Friday morning, I had decided that I'm not letting anything outside of me determine who I am. I'm not letting any circumstances determine how committed, resilient, persistent I am about what I wish to bring into this world. I'm here on purpose, and my purpose is to bring light. So I'm going to keep focusing on the light and keep progressing. That was my emotional breakthrough for the week. Now let's talk about physical operating system. So this week, I think the biggest win for me, for my body, was I actually did a 4-hour dance workshop. So on Saturday morning, this is right after Thursday evening, I get this big news. I process it overnight, and Friday I resolved that this is who I'm going to be, right? There's a identity enforcement right there. And then Saturday morning, I go to a dance class locally, and we were all going to record a reel for this song. So I woke up, I did my meditation early morning. I practiced the dance with my eyes closed at 5 a.m. in the morning and said, this feels great. Let me just rehearse since I'm awake and about. And then I went, I think we started at 8:30 in the morning. It was cold, windy, but we recorded the reel. And then I had a dance class right after from 10:30. So 2 hours of reel recording externally outside in cold wind. Then from 10 to 12:30 or 10:30 to 12:30, 2 hours of dance class, learning a new contemporary dance routine. That was the best thing I did for myself. Saturday, I was completely in the identity of someone who had already achieved what I wished to. There was no anxiety, no thought. I didn't even think about the debt because I knew it was taken care of. Somehow I just knew. So moving the body has been the biggest gift. And dance for me has been amazing. And I also started doing yoga Saturday morning before I went to the dance class, and I did yoga on Sunday, and I'm finding big benefit of doing yoga as well as doing dance. So as much movement as I can get during the day, I'm incorporating it right now. The other thing that has unfolded for me in the physical operating system is I informed my acupuncturist. I go for acupuncture sessions every week now. And I told him I'm going to stop all the herbs, and I'm going to just watch how my body is functioning. The beauty about this breakthrough last week with my acupuncturist is he checks my pulse. He's amazing. He's very good at what he does. And he checks my pulse and he says, well, how has your protein been? And I said, I haven't been eating any meat. He recommended that I eat chicken for bringing my protein intake for the day. So I did start it, but I haven't been consistent, to be honest. Somehow it didn't appeal to me as much. And so I told him I haven't been taking much chicken, but I did take some dairy. I was off dairy for a while because of his recommendation. So he basically checked my pulse, and then he checked my tongue for any coating. And then he said, wow, you're one of the few who's able to actually bring the protein and the energy back into your body without meat. And I told him, yes, that's because I believe in mind over matter. So, these are all examples where our mind has more power in terms of what we tell our body. So I decided that as someone who's fully healthy, if I'm already healthy, I wouldn't be taking all these herbs. If I already am physically fit, and I believe that belief has a huge role to play. Your intellectual operating system has a huge role to play in how it influences your physical body. And I believed that whatever I eat, I have the maximum protein absorption from everything that I eat. It's a program. This is something I programmed my mind to believe. And so I didn't need to have meat in order to bring my vitality back into the body. So intellectual operating system breakthrough this week was how beautifully synchronistic my choices and decisions have been in the last few months. So in May of last year, I joined a program to help me with gaining clarity on what it is that I really wanted to bring to this world from a business standpoint. And then in November, I met another mentor, and I was completely drawn by the level of certainty she was holding in her energy and in her, building her business and who she was. So I enrolled in her program as well. And then I was drawn to the author Neil Donald Walsh's mentorship program, because I always felt that his books had an amazing impact on my life, Conversation with God series. And to be in his energy and to really understand how he communes with God was something I was absolutely interested to learn and embody for myself. So 3 programs that I enrolled in, one was for clarity, the second was for certainty, and the third was for connection, more awareness of connection with the infinite intelligence. And then I came across the business strategist that I mentioned about in the last video. And in her program, she actually talks about us embodying clarity, certainty. She exactly used those 2 words. And it was absolutely mind-blowing for me to understand that all along this path, I was literally just following my intuitive sense of what I said yes to. I first said yes to a program that brought me clarity, and then I said yes to a program that brought me certainty, and then I said yes to a program that brought me more connection to the infinite intelligence, and then I said yes to a program that will bring all of this embodiment out in the world with some specific offers and clients and people that I can go serve on a very high level to have maximum ripple effect on this world. And to see that all connect the dots, like it was like a light bulb moment for me this week. This sequencing is not something I could have made happen logically. I truly believe it is divine sequencing. And the second intellectual operating system shift is what I already mentioned about the law of opposites and how I was able to reframe what was happening with this debt, huge debt, and how I'm using it as a fuel right now to quantum leap, because there is no way I can stay in the current version of myself and get to a place of paying this amount of debt in a short time frame. It is so pushing me right now to embody this version of me that absolutely is fearless, bold, and goes and gets what it is that I'm here to not only get, but also to give, through giving and then getting in the process of making that impact. So this is like, I almost felt like I closed the doors on falling back into any of my old ways of thinking, acting, feeling, or behaving, or who I was as an identity. That door is closed. So there's no other option but to leap. And so I'm right at that edge where I'm leaping. And that fueling has actually, this incident has actually fueled many actions externally this week, and I'm going to get to it shortly after we now review the consciousness OS operating system as the last one internally. So when it comes to consciousness operating system, first thing I want to talk about is a prospect that I mentioned reached out. So basically this happened because of the webinar that I was running, the webinar ad that I ran a couple of weeks ago. This person saw that post that I had done and viewed my profile in LinkedIn. And I reached out asking what prompted him to, and he actually was kind enough to give me an understanding of what about my post resonated and made him think in a particular way. What fascinated me was his thinking was very different from what I'm used to hearing from people. So I said, hey, would you mind if we get on a call for me to pick your brains on where your thinking is leading? Because I find it fascinating that you have a thought process that's different from people that I interact with. And he was very kind and he did jump on a call. And we had an amazing 30-minute conversation. And I gave him a lot of perspective on how I saw artificial intelligence impacting humanity, impacting leaders, impacting how we do work and who we end up being as part of our journey here on in evolution. And some things that I mentioned actually hit home for him. And so he left the call and he messaged me after saying, you've made me start to think in a way that I wasn't even aware of. It's making me reflect a lot on what I'm experiencing right now in my journey. And I said, glad to be of service. And then a little later, he came back and said, hey, what would it take to work with you? What are your charges, services, and so on? So I mentioned to him that I do not work with people unless I have a chance to talk to them, which is part of my advisory qualification process. I go through a 1 hour long deep diagnosis, or called diagnostic, to understand where they are in their journey and whether I'm the right person to support them at this level. He's a founder, he's a tech founder. And so he was willing, he joined on the call, we had a conversation, but long story short, there was a very easy way to have reduced my offer pricing to make sure that I got this person as a client. But the identity that I stood in was one of, I know the value that I bring, and I also know that this is something that will change your life. That this is true for anybody that I work with. That's the certainty that I embody right now, and the identity that I embody right now is one where I do not dilute who I am in order to meet you where you are. My presence in anyone's life is a call for them to rise. So there is a beautiful analogy that I want to share, which is, you can think of rescue boats or lighthouse. Going out into the sea and getting people out of the sea into a rescue boat is part of some people's purpose. I was doing that for 7 years of my business journey. Actually, it was a lifelong pattern, to be honest, but I've come to become more aware of it that I have stopped doing that. Instead, I have now become the lighthouse. I get to be me, shining my light, holding my value that I offer to this world, and those who want to rise up to meet me there will meet me there. That is me standing in my new identity, where I do not lower my prices so that you can feel comfortable to be in my energy. This is new. This is new even for me. But the beauty about this is, after declaring the price and that it didn't work for this individual, which I completely understand and appreciate, what I went through was absolutely no second thoughts about going back and saying, hey, I want to reduce the price, or hey, I want to help you. None of those even came into my intellectual awareness. It wasn't even part of my process. I was grateful that I had a chance to talk to him. I did it completely intuitively, no scripts. And the fact that I gave immense value for that person in that call, including what they can do even without me to get past where they are. So I've given most value already, and the rest of the stuff is all about being in my energy and receiving the shifts that I have been making in my own operating system available in a close proximity, one-on-one with working with me. This is a big identity anchoring that I've done this week that I'm absolutely celebrating. And the other aspect about consciousness operating system is, when I was on Saturday doing this entire dance experience, my mind kept saying, why are you not freaking out? You should be freaking out. You've got such a big debt to pay off. You don't even know where the next client is coming from, blah, 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 mind. But my identity was so anchored in who I am that I could observe, my consciousness was able to observe my intellectual operating system going on and about saying, why are you not freaking out? Why are you not freaking out? It was so fascinating to observe that aspect of me. And that to me is also growth. When you can observe your thoughts and let them be, not resist them, not succumb to them, right? That is shift in awareness, which is shift in consciousness, which is the journey I'm on. You know, the business outcome is a byproduct. It is the question on this journey always for me is, am I at the level of consciousness that effortlessly attracts this result of $4.4 million in my business? This entire journey for me is how aware and how am I able to elevate my level of consciousness. So before we go jump into the outer operating system, one last thing that I want to point out, which I didn't talk about in the emotional operating system, is I was going through huge fear was outreach. So I decided that I'm creating my whole marketing plan right now as part of the reaching out to people and talking about what I'm offering. And that process made me do a short list of companies that I wanted to be working with, because I get to choose, right? I am working at the advisory level for executive leaders, and I get to choose who I want to work with. So I was creating the list of companies, but this part of me, again, back in the background, there is this emotional operating system and intellectual operating system, both doing a dance. One is like, oh my God, you're going to be reaching out to all these people. What if they don't respond? What will they think of you? Blah, blah, blah. You know, the whole noise. It's just noise. So I said, okay, let me sit down and process this, because the energy of fear was so palpable in my system. It's not that I have not done outreach. I have no idea where this is coming from. So I'm like, okay, fine, it is there. Let me address it. Because remember, what you resist persists. The more you push away your fear, the more it has power over you. And I said, okay, let's talk to you. Let's talk to this fear. What do you have to say to me? What is the worst thing that's going to happen? Oh, you're going to be messaging people. They're going to be thinking you're desperate, you're needy, you must be not good enough. Look at all the narratives, right? I'm like, okay, so what's the worst thing that's going to happen? So what's the worst thing? They may judge you. Okay, then what? They may not respond to you. Okay, then what? Well, they may respond, they may not get on the call. Okay, then what? Well, they may get on the call, they may actually say what you're doing is nonsense. Okay, then what? That's it. So what essentially this whole process led me to was I will be judged, and people will not get on a call, or will get on a call and will not support me, or will end up again judging my offer or what I'm doing. Okay, these are all of it down to fear of judgment. Underlying fear is fear of rejection. Underlying the fear is identity tied to acceptance. I want you to accept me. I want you to like me, right? That the people pleasing pattern. I could see it, and I said, okay. The worst thing is already here, which means nobody is talking to me right now. Nobody is getting on a call with me already. And they are already thinking whatever they want to think about me. Whatever I do is not going to change it. So I'm already in that reality. It's just me making the effort. So that process really helped with getting me to a place where I was like, okay, this is it. I'm not concerned about this anymore. Let's move on. So that led to a bunch of outer operating system shifts that I have experienced. If you've been listening and any of these inner operating shifts landed for you, resonated for you, or made a difference for you in your journey of where you are and what you're navigating, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. And now let's talk about the outer operating systems. So the first thing I did this week is getting the list of 50 organizations that I absolutely would love to advise, executive leadership team level. They had to meet a certain criteria. I did not want to be working with large organizations where there was too much bureaucracy, because I won't be able to bring the necessary shift, at least not currently. So I was very particular about which organizations I wanted to serve. And I actually used this book. Anybody who has been in Agile, the world of Agile development or Agile methodology would probably be familiar with this. The book is called Reinventing Organizations. Incredible book. Actually, it talks about a guide to creating organizations inspired by the next stage of human consciousness. Talk about consciousness. Isn't that the journey I talked about for myself right now? So I looked at the traits of organizations that are at the pivotal point of shifting in their own organizational consciousness, and decided these are the types of companies that I want to be advising, because there will be some measurable dent that I can make with the C-level leaders as well as with the organization and its employees. Second, I had my first sales call for my B2C offer. This is direct to consumer individual founder that I talked about. I'm celebrating that because that came out of nowhere. It actually gave me incredible confidence, practice, and standing in the identity of who I am without watering down what I offer, or to just be accommodative for somebody. Third, I have created a marketing plan for outreach at the moment, and I've used my LinkedIn. I'm also creating a content plan where I'm being inspired. I have amazing inspiration to talk about AI and consciousness, and also impact of AI on jobs, and how leaders, the C-level leaders, the executive leadership teams how can they navigate on it. So I may be doing some white papers on it, definitely doing some LinkedIn video and text content on that as well. So I'm creating the marketing plan for that. And last but not the least, I think I'm up to chapter 11 or 10 right now in my book. So I've written a couple of more chapters on my book. And I also got a very good editor's name from Neil Donald Walsh. He has recommended an editor that I can work with, so I'm celebrating that. The book I'm reading this week, I finished the book Having last week, and now I'm reading the book A World Appears by Michael Pollan. And it's also about a journey into consciousness. So everything is about consciousness in my reality right now, and I'm absolutely loving it. Besides the dance that I talked about for physical operating system, I've also restarted my pole dancing and liquid motion dancing. So this week I'm going to be headed to liquid pole class. So anything to keep my body in a movement and flow of energy is what I'm looking for. So externally, that's another action that I've taken. And also acted on finding ways to address this IRS debt, reaching out to a couple of attorneys and CPAs to get support. What I found funny but also grateful for is the people that heard about this bill were more upset than I was. And to know that I have people like this in my life, I'm so grateful. Financial planner, my accountant, my CPA, and even extended friends and family. So thank you. So here's what I want to leave you with today. This week, the Infinite Intelligence asked me one question when I was in the fear of outreaching people, right? And I'm going to read this question to you because I would rather say it verbatim than bring it out of memory. There is one person in your network right now who desperately needs you, who's praying for you, who is willing to invest everything to work with you, and you're withholding your message because of your ego. Can you let that go? You see how powerful this message was? And I realize that's the question for all of us. It's not just for business, it's true for life as well. How many of us are sitting on our gifts, on our message, on our talents, on our purpose, because we are so afraid to be judged? How many of us? So my question to you, can you let that go? Can you let your fear of being judged go and step up to share your gift with this world? Because the world needs you, more so now than ever before. The slingshot has to be pulled back before it can fly high. And right now, if life is pulling you back harder than ever before, then maybe, just maybe, so that you can fly higher than you have ever imagined yourself to. Something deeply resolved within me this week, and I hope something does for you too watching this video. I'll see you next week.